You're listening to the Laura the Library Lady podcast, presented by the Massillon Public Library.
Hi, it's Laura the Library Lady here at the Massillon Public Library in our Duncan House basement studio with our local author, Debbie Edmisten. Welcome, Debbie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. As a local author in our area, can you talk about your background and where you're originally from?
Well, this is just a little bit of trivia. I just recently did the 23andMe thing.
Oh.
And found out that I'm 100% European, so you probably don't want to go that far back. Ancestry from mostly Germany, a little bit British,
Mostly
and
Germany?
a little bit Irish. Yeah.
Very interesting.
But for my generation, I was raised the first 10 years of my life in Akron, and then my family moved to Canal Fulton when I was 10 and lived the rest of my childhood there. Since being married, pretty much North Canton area, a 3-year stint in Jacksonville, Florida, but
Oh, my goodness.
yeah,
You left us.
but back to Ohio.
They always come back, don't they?
Yes.
Everybody comes
I was
back.
not a fan of Florida.
Well, you know, the weather, everybody likes it. But
Yeah, it wasn't
if
my
you're used
cup
to
of tea.
Ohio.
Yeah.
All right. Well, can you tell us a little bit about how you got started writing?
Well, from the time I think I read my first book, I knew I wanted to write. And, you know, growing up, there were some issues and different things going on. And, you know, then getting married, having my children. But it was always my goal to write. But I always had this fear that I couldn't finish things because when I was younger, I didn't. And so I think I've told you this before. One thing that held me back was where to break paragraphs. I mean, it sounds silly, but it was like a real fear of mine. And so anyways, when I was in my early 40s, I went through a traumatic event, losing my mom, and that kind of prompted me to start writing, and I've just been writing ever since. So
A sad event, and yet it has led to probably a lot
Right.
of joy, I would say, and
Right.
bringing enjoyment and happiness to other people as well. Because I know you have not only done children's books, but you do adult books too.
Right.
And how many books are you up to now?
I think it's going to be 11, 12. I think it's going to be 12 when the new one comes out.
That's wonderful. Oh my
So-
goodness. So all different genres. I know you do, as I mentioned, children's, also kind of inspirational. Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
I call it faith-based fiction.
Very good.
And I got started with that because a lot of faith-based things that I was finding in bookstores, you know, like Barnes and Noble and that, were kind of just very soft and didn't deal with the really raw
Oh, kind of
issues
not
of
the real
life.
world. Okay.
Yeah, just kind of, you know, I have nothing against Amish romances. I'm just saying, like,
Right. Those are fun.
to really deal with the hard issues of life, faith-wise. So, but they're written as mysteries, some of them. Some of them are written as, like, I would say mystery/romance, one of them. So, but they do get into the nitty-gritty of life.
So kind of that enjoyment factor with the romance or the mystery.
Entertaining, hopefully, but still dealing with tough subjects.
Tough subjects and how to deal with those based on your faith.
Right. And then the other adult ones are just, you know, straight up mysteries or whatever. And I'm currently writing a sci-fi murder mystery
Ooh.
that takes place on Mars. And my youngest son challenged me to write a sci-fi book, and that is not my thing. So I'm a little bit nervous about it because I don't want it to be cheesy.
Although sometimes cheesy is fun.
Because it's not, and again, that it deals with a tough subject. When you
Okay.
get to the conclusion, it'll be kind of a thing that maybe you'll see we're dealing with today in our culture. But this is, you know, way in the future. So anyways,
That sounds interesting.
I'm working on that right now. I'm about 2/3 of the way through. So
Well, I would say that's a success for him to challenge you, and you're already 2/3 done.
We'll see. We'll see if it turns out all right.
Hey, and to go back to your comment about the paragraphs. So what did you do about that? With your fear of not knowing where to break a paragraph, did you just kind of try to teach yourself or go forward and not put any paragraph breaks?
Yeah, I just dove in, and, I had people look at it, before I published it. I looked, like intentionally at examples in books and seeing things. And I had a sense of it. It wasn't like I didn't know you break when another person speaks after one person speaks, but, just how far you go. And I kind of found out that there's kind of a science to it, but not really. Like, some writers have enormous,
I've noticed that, yeah.
Yeah, they can go on for 2 pages without taking a paragraph break. So I kind of learned not to be afraid, that it's kind of, in a sense, anything goes.
Have you ever modeled a character after yourself or someone else? Did you find that therapeutic if you did?
I think I answered in the Authors Under Pressure, yes.
We just did our short
I'm not going to reveal which one, though. But yeah, it is therapeutic to write. And maybe, your whole self is not in the character, but elements of yourself are in the character. And that is therapeutic. I mean, you work through things in your mind, in your heart, like, your emotions of things you've gone through. So, and the newest book that I'm getting ready to publish.
And what's that one called?
It's called A Nose Apart, The Third Adventure, and it's based on a little fictional creature. I know you're familiar with Boba. Her name is Boba. And, we've talked before about how kids, we kind of underestimate them sometimes with hard subjects, but kids are dealing with hard things all the time, whether it's bullying or divorce or abuse. And so these Boba books are meant to very gently address tough subjects with children in the 8 to 12 age range. And I found this little creature, because she's funny and quirky, she softens. She softens those things, yeah. And so the new book deals with a child in the midst of a traumatic situation, where the mother has been lost and the father becomes an alcoholic and starts to hit the child. And so the child has run away, and Boba,
the little creature,
discovers this child, and she and her kind, the Ninharias, take this little boy in. And there's also one of the village people named Mrs. Mayo, and in the first 2 books, she's this really grumpy, grouchy, always trying to get Boba in trouble. And they come to find out through this little boy's trauma that Mrs. Mayo had trauma in her past. She was abandoned as a child, a baby. And the Ninharias took her in. And so we get an understanding of Mrs. Mayo then, so it kind of comes full circle.
Yeah, and I think that's important to kind of, show people someone's background really has so much to do with their personality,
their reactions to
and
life,
their reactions today, right?
Yeah.
I love Boba. She's so funny.
Yeah, definitely quirky.
So those books are kind of the early chapter book stage, like you said, for ages 8 to 12, and we do have those at the library. So that's always a nice thing to be able to recommend to somebody, that here's a book that is fun and entertaining, has this cute little character, and yet it also deals with an important topic.
Right.
And you've got a different topic in each of those 3 books. So I like those a lot.
Thanks.
I think, in modeling a character after yourself, even if you don't reveal everything in the character, I think probably the fact that you're considering it and thinking about it would help you to deal with, some type of past trauma or something. I'm just kind of speculating here. Even if you don't write all of that into the character, just because you're kind of considering it all, thinking about all of it, and trying to go forward and decide, what would the character do and why? What would be their motivation based on their past?
Exactly.
My past, depending on who that is.
And maybe some element of the reaction from others that we wish we would have gotten. Where the Ninharias come to help this boy. Sometimes that's not the case, but...
Right, you're the writer, so you can make whatever
you can do
happen.
The happy ending.
That's awesome. I wanted to know if you would read a short excerpt from one of your books, and I see you have your folder with you. So
Sure. This is actually the first chapter of the new Boba book, which we were just talking about. It may be a few minutes, but I think it gives the full sense of her and hopefully introduces the book to everybody. But this is chapter 1 of A Nose Apart, the Third Adventure. Boba's eyes popped open. Something had startled her awake. She pushed herself up and scanned her cozy bedroom with blurry eyes. Moonlight poured in through the window, softening the darkness. She could just barely make out her favorite toys tucked snugly in a basket in the corner, her dressing table and mirror, a blanket on the floor with books spread all over it. Everything was as it should be. She felt safe and secure. A drowsy smile crept to her lips. Home. There was nothing better. She laid back and pulled the patchwork quilt tied around her tiny body. She sighed contentedly and closed her eyes. She didn't know what had awoken her, probably a sound in her dreams. Or Maduro had gotten up to go to the bathroom. Or so he said. She smirked. Her older brother was always making excuses for getting up in the night so he could raid the cookie jar. Boba's mouth watered as she remembered the batch of oatmeal raisin cookies Mama had made earlier that day. Her eyes drifted open. Maybe Maduro had the right idea after all. She pushed the quilt away and sat up, her feet paws dangling over the edge of the bed. Boba considered whether she should risk Mama being cross with her for taking a cookie. Her footpaw rested on the wood floor as she slid from the bed. Then the other footpaw. Should she? Shouldn't she? She felt an irresistible pull toward the kitchen. She knew what that meant. Just like her need to know things, the craving for cookies was too strong to ignore. She tiptoed softly across the floor to her bedroom door. She opened it slowly and cringed when it squeaked. She looked down the hallway. Neither Mama, Daddy, nor Maduro appeared. She breathed a sigh of relief. She moved into the hallway and made her way inch by inch to the kitchen. She looked over her shoulder every few steps to make sure no one was coming. All clear. When Boba got to the kitchen, she rushed to the cookie jar in the center of the table. She imagined she was an undercover spy as she lifted the lid off the jar. Boba reached in and pulled a cookie out. She put the lid back on and took a huge bite. She was instantly overwhelmed by the delicious flavors of oatmeal and raisin. Cookies were like a song in food form, she thought. As she munched away, she caught a reflection of herself in the kitchen window. She reached up and touched her curly-tipped nose. She was the only Ninharia with a curl in their nose. The rest of her kind had long ski-slope noses with no curl. She truly believed her unique nose had been given to her to sniff out information. She lived for information. Information was pure gold to her, especially the kind of information that came from the humans who walked and biked through the nature preserve she and the rest of the Ninharias called home. Mama and Daddy constantly warned her about eavesdropping on the humans, but Boba couldn't seem to help herself. She just had to listen. Her parents told her if she attracted the humans' attention, it would endanger all of them. They'd be carted off to a zoo and we'd be prisoners there for the rest of their days. They did admit that she'd become friends with 3 wonderful humans who could be trusted to keep them safe, but they didn't want to add any more to that number. Boba smiled as she thought of Darren, Ayana, and Emily. They were the truest of friends, the best of humankind. Suddenly, a shadow passed by the kitchen window, catching Boba's attention. What is that? She stood frozen in place, her heart pounding. After a few seconds, she forced herself to walk to the window. She leaned against the sink and looked out, afraid of what she might see. The cookie dropped from her footpaw as fear washed over her. She knew now what had startled her awake. As the moonlight shone through the trees just above the hill that hid her village, Boba saw a dark-cloaked figure crashing through the trees.
I love it when you end with a cliffhanger.
I'm a fan of cliffhangers.
Dark cloaked figure. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Well, as I said before, I love Boba. She's so cute, and I like how you describe her very professionally and very well written. It takes a lot, I think, to learn how to do that narrative description without just seeming to list characteristics of a character. She had a long nose with a curl in it.
Right.
But I really enjoy how you write those descriptions.
Thank you.
That seem very natural and very captivating to the audience, really.
Hopefully.
And Boba is a reader also.
She is.
She had books in her bedroom.
She loves books.
Now, when you were a child, did you enjoy reading as well?
Oh, yeah.
Because you said from the first book that you read almost you wanted to write.
Yes. In first grade, my teacher actually enrolled me in a speed reading course that the school was offering. So I was already reading in first grade, and then, did the speed reading. So it's just always been a love of mine ever since I was a child. So
that is really interesting to hear. Wow. Speed reading for 6-year-olds.
Yeah.
Well, I bet you got a lot done.
Yeah, actually.
Finished your homework fast.
Very fast.
Read a lot of
Except
books.
for the math. Ugh.
Well, I don't know if is there speed reading, speed math?
No, not for me. There wasn't.
Me neither. Well, Debbie, do you ever feel that you get writer's block? And if you do, what do you do about that?
Usually just waiting it out. And we've I think we touched on this a little bit before in an interview, but I more often get plot block. I can write, but it's just, where is the plot going? And what I have to do is just wait it out.
So while you're waiting, do you just keep writing, or do you go and do something else?
I just stare at it a lot, or, try a sentence and, but it'll eventually just come to me. I mean, epiphany sounds like a,
Eureka!
highfalutin word, but you know what I mean. It just, something comes to me and it's like, and then
that's the perfect answer to
then it
what you're
moves
gonna
the
do
story
next.
along.
Okay. I can just imagine, people out there with writer's block who are struggling and just, tearing their hair out and everything. But I think it would be encouraging to hear that, you just stare at it for a while. That seems simple, and yet it works, I guess, because you're thinking about it. And
not to be afraid of it. Think it's the end of the world, because it will come to you.
True.
It eventually will.
So I know you're going to be doing a presentation here at the Massillon Public Library soon, and you've presented for us before and been to our local author fairs. So some folks are familiar with you here. But if folks wanted to purchase your books in the meantime, how do they find them, and what are some ways to find out more about you?
I have a Facebook page, Deborah Edmisten Author, and also an Instagram author account, Deborah Edmisten Author. You can just,
Let's spell your last name for them.
Edmisten. And just search like you would anybody, and you'll find me on Facebook and Instagram. I was talking to the guys earlier. I haven't ventured into TikTok yet, so just those two. And the books,
you'll be on TikTok with our short.
Oh, well, there you
with
go.
Our
I'll
authors
make my
under pressure.
debut, right?
There you go.
Yeah, but the books are for sale on Amazon in paperback, Kindle, and Kindle Unlimited. So
all kinds of different ways.
if you want to get them before July 12th, when I speak, I'll have some books for sale that day. They're on Amazon.
Very good. And people can see you here at our local author fairs most of the time. You attend those in March and November, so we're looking forward to that later on in the year. Just wanted to thank you so much for coming in. I'm so excited for your next book to come out.
Thank you.
And hope to see you soon. Thanks, Debbie.
See you in July. Thanks.
Hey everyone, this is Jeff, and I hope you enjoyed listening to the Lore the Library Lady podcast. Join us for the local author book fair on Saturday, November 11th, 2023, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. This event is open to all and is held twice a year in both March and November. Browse, purchase books, meet, and network with local authors. Visit massillonlibrary.org for more information. Hope to see you there.